Hi, welcome to English Hamster. Are you learning English? Great. Here we learn through stories. They are simple and interesting. You can improve English while learning knowledge. Remember to subscribe, like and comment. Let's get started.
Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a language learning rut? Maybe you're learning English for a long time but still feel afraid to speak. You know the words, but they just won't come out when you need them. What if I told you that my journey to mastering English taught me far more than just grammar and vocabulary? It taught me life lessons I never expected, lessons about growth, resilience, and self-discovery. You won't believe the unexpected insights I gained. Do you ever feel like learning a new language is like running up a hill? It feels slow, and you might feel out of breath. But when you reach the top, it's worth it. Let's explore how we can make this journey easier and maybe even fun together. When I first started learning English, it wasn't just about learning grammar or vocabulary. It was about connecting with people. I wanted to understand movies, music, and conversations I could not be a part of. But at first, the road was rough. I remember my first embarrassing moment. I was at a party with some friends and someone asked me where I was from. I wanted to say, I'm from New York, but instead I said, I'm from York New. The whole room went quiet for a second and I felt my face turn red. I wanted to disappear, but instead of running away, I laughed. Everyone else laughed too. It felt awkward, but that moment taught me something important. It's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes are part of learning. When we learn a language, we can't expect to be perfect. In fact, expecting perfection is one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Language learning isn't a straight line. It's full of ups and downs. Sometimes it feels like you're stuck in a plateau, and that's okay. The important part is to keep going. So if you ever feel like you're not improving, remember, you're learning even when it doesn't feel like it. As I continued learning English, something unexpected happened. I started to notice things I hadn't before, things about the language, but also about life itself. For example, English has so many expressions, like to break the ice or to go the extra mile. These expressions are not just words. They are windows into a different culture, a different way of thinking. At first, I only listened for the words. I thought, what does this word mean? But then, I began listening for the emotions behind the words. I listened to how people spoke. Was their voice happy, sad, excited? Learning to understand the feelings behind the words helped me connect better with people. This shift in how I listened also helped me understand my own culture better. For example, in English, we often say, "How are you?" to be polite, even if we don't expect a long answer. In my language, we ask the same thing, but we really want to know how the other person feels. This small difference helped me see how culture shapes the way we talk to each other. One of the biggest challenges for shy learners is the fear of making mistakes. I know that fear all too well. When you're shy, it's easy to feel like everyone is watching you, waiting for you to fail. But trust me, that's not true. People are not waiting for you to fail. They're usually hoping you'll succeed. When I first started speaking English, I made a lot of mistakes. I felt anxious every time I spoke. I remember one time I was trying to order food at a restaurant. I said, "I want one pizza, please." The waiter smiled and said, "Did you mean one large pizza?" I felt embarrassed, but I smiled back and said, "Yes, that's right." That little mistake didn't change anything. I still got my pizza, and I learned something new. Over time, I learned that mistakes are not failures. They are part of the process. Every time I made a mistake, I became stronger. I started to see mistakes as learning opportunities, not something to fear. So, if you make a mistake, don't worry. It's just part of learning. In fact, I started to celebrate my small victories. For example, the first time I used an idiom correctly, I felt like a champion. As I kept improving my English, I started to notice something even more powerful than just speaking the language well. I began to connect with people on a deeper level. English became a bridge to new friendships, experiences, and perspectives. I remember one day at work, a colleague asked me about my hometown. We started talking, and soon we were laughing about the differences between our cultures. At first, I was scared to speak, but then I realized that speaking English wasn't about perfect grammar, it was about sharing who I was. In that moment, I understood that the language I was learning wasn't just words. It was a tool to understand others and to be understood. One of the most surprising things I learned was how connecting with others through language helped me understand myself better. The more I spoke, the more I learned about my own thoughts and feelings. I remember trying to explain a complicated idea in English, and as I struggled to find the right words, I began to realize how much I valued clear communication. The more I practiced, the better I understood how I wanted to express myself, not just in English, but in any language. Learning a new language isn't just about vocabulary or grammar, it's about building relationships. It's about learning to connect with people from different cultures and backgrounds. And when you break down those language barriers, you find that we all have more in common than we think. Looking back on my English learning journey, I see that it taught me far more than just how to speak another language. It taught me valuable life lessons that I could apply to everything I do. One lesson I learned was the importance of being adaptable. When I first started learning, I thought I could only learn English in one way, by sitting in a classroom, memorizing words and rules. But I quickly learned that life doesn't work that way. I had to be flexible. I listened to English podcasts, watched TV shows, and spoke to people whenever I could. I learned that sometimes the best way to improve is by stepping out of your comfort zone and trying new things. Another important lesson was the power of persistence. At times, I felt frustrated. I wanted to give up. But then I remembered why I started in the first place: to connect with others, to learn, and to grow. It was hard, but I kept going. And as I kept pushing myself, I started to see progress. Small steps led to big changes, and soon I felt confident enough to speak freely. The most profound lesson I learned, though, was that growth doesn't always happen in the way you expect. When I started learning English, I thought it was just about speaking better. But along the way, I discovered that learning English wasn't just about words. It was about seeing the world differently. It was about understanding myself, others, and the world around me in a new way. Confidence doesn't happen overnight. It's something you build step by step. One of the best ways to gain confidence in speaking English is by practicing every day. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes, what matters is that you keep trying. At first, I felt nervous speaking English in front of others. But over time, I realized that the more I practiced, the less I worried about making mistakes. I started to feel more comfortable in conversations, even when I didn't know every word. I learned that communication is about more than just perfect grammar. It's about sharing ideas and connecting with others. If you're shy about speaking English, try setting small goals. Maybe you start by practicing with a friend or speaking in front of a mirror. Then, as you get more comfortable, challenge yourself to speak with more people. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become. Remember, confidence is built on small victories. Each time you speak, no matter how small the conversation, you are growing. Celebrate those little wins, and soon, you'll see how much progress you've made. One of the biggest challenges I faced while learning English was self-doubt. Sometimes I would think, I'm not good enough. My accent is not perfect. I'm never going to be fluent. It's easy to fall into this trap, especially when you compare yourself to others. But over time, I learned that everyone's language learning journey is different. I remember feeling discouraged when I heard someone speak English perfectly. It made me think I was behind or that I would never be as good as them. But one day, a friend told me something that changed my perspective. Fluency doesn't mean perfection. It means the ability to communicate, to express your ideas. That simple piece of advice helped me stop focusing on perfection and start focusing on communication. You don't need to speak like a native speaker to be successful. You just need to be confident in your ability to express yourself. And if you're shy about making mistakes, remember, every learner has been in your shoes. Everyone has felt unsure at some point. But with practice and persistence, that doubt will fade and confidence will take its place. The key to becoming confident in speaking English is practicing as much as possible. The more you speak, the more comfortable you'll feel. I know it's scary at first, but trust me, it gets easier. I started by practicing with my friends, and then I joined language exchange groups where I could speak with native speakers. At first, I made many mistakes, but each conversation taught me something new. I also found it helpful to listen to how native speakers talk. Watching movies or TV shows in English helped me understand how people really speak. I would pay attention to how they used words, how they expressed emotions, and how they formed sentences. It helped me feel more confident using the language in real life. Another tip I learned along the way is to avoid overthinking. When you're having a conversation, don't worry too much about grammar. Focus on understanding and being understood. If you make a mistake, don't stress about it. Just keep going. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. Learning a language is a long process, and it's easy to feel frustrated when things don't improve as quickly as you'd like. But the key is to be patient with yourself. Progress in language learning is not always obvious. Some days, it might feel like you're not improving at all. But over time, you will see the results of your hard work. I remember many times when I felt stuck. I couldn't remember the right words, or I made the same mistakes over and over. But instead of giving up, I kept practicing. Slowly, I began to notice that I could understand more, speak more clearly, and feel more confident. Patience is key. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to make mistakes. What matters is that you keep going. Language learning is not a race. It's a journey, and every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. If you're a shy English learner, I want you to know that you are not alone. Everyone feels nervous at some point. But don't let that fear stop you from speaking. Every time you speak, you are improving. Every conversation, no matter how short, is a step toward building confidence. So start small. Speak to a friend. Join a group. Practice in front of the mirror. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep trying. And remember, every time you speak, you're learning, you're growing, and you're getting closer to your goal. Confidence comes with time and practice. Be kind to yourself and celebrate your progress. Don't focus on how far you still have to go. Look at how far you've come. You've already made it this far, and that's something to be proud of. When I first started learning English, it felt like a mountain to climb. Every new word, every new sentence was a small challenge. But as time went on, I began to realize something important. Every small win counts. The joy of progress is in the little victories. For example, I remember the first time I understood a joke in English. It was a simple one, but I laughed out loud because I got it. That moment felt amazing. It wasn't just about the joke, it was about the fact that I understood it. Little moments like this reminded me that I was getting better, and those small wins added up over time. So, when you're learning English, don't wait for big breakthroughs to feel proud. Celebrate the small things, like saying your first sentence without hesitation or using a new word in a conversation. These small wins will keep you motivated, and they'll help you see how much you've really learned. As I look back on my journey, I can see how much learning English has changed me, not just as a speaker, but as a person. Learning a new language isn't just about mastering grammar or vocabulary. It's about challenging yourself, growing, and discovering things about yourself you never knew. Learning English taught me to be more patient and more forgiving of myself. It showed me that failure isn't something to fear, it's a part of the process. And most importantly, it taught me that confidence comes from practice and persistence. So, if you're feeling shy or unsure about speaking English, remember this: you are not alone. Everyone feels the way you do at some point. But with every step you take, no matter how small, you are getting closer to your goal. Keep practicing, keep trying, and soon, you'll look back and realize how far you've come. In the end, learning English, or any language, is about more than just words. It's about growing, connecting, and discovering new parts of yourself. It's about building confidence, one conversation at a time. So, to all the shy English speakers out there, don't give up. Your journey is unique, and every step you take is worth celebrating. Whether it's a small victory or a big achievement, each moment is a step toward becoming the confident English speaker you want to be. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being yourself, and that's more than enough.
Hey, if you learned something new today, please give this video a like. Write your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really helps to create more English videos for you. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.